Welcome to a very special edition of New Bedford Connections. I'm Paul Santos, as usual. We're going to have a lot of fun over the next half hour. This has a potential to be one of the better New Bedford Connections, but we'll have to see how it goes. In honor of Father's Day, I thought it'd be a great idea to bring down my dad, 87 years young, Jesse Santos, former New Bedford school teacher, and also a former Chief Probation Officer at New Bedford District Court. Welcome to New Bedford Connections.
Thank you.
I can't believe you're here right now.
Well, I can't either.
Whose idea was this anyway?
You.
Well, Father's Day around the corner,
Yeah,
and
fine.
we got a half an hour to kill here. You know what I
Sure.
mean? So we
Why
gotta,
not? Why not?
we gotta come up with some guests. So I figured, what the heck, If I can't get you to come on, who am I going to get to come on?
Well, I don't know.
By the way, you did ask me before whether or not you would get paid for this. I'm sorry to inform you that there is no pay. This is a freebie.
Where's my wheelchair?
I don't even need that. By the way, I do want to say to the audience, viewer discretion is advised during the next half hour. So be good now. Don't blurt anything out that's inappropriate. Okay.
No.
So glad to have you here. This is a New Bedford Connection. I know you've watched the show before. We always try to have people who are New Bedford people, who, if there is somebody that is a full-blown New Bedford, that's you. You spent your whole life here, retired here, 87 years young. I mean, you're a New Bedford guy, right?
Right,
You grew up on the streets of the South End.
right. Hall Street.
Yeah. What was that like back then? This is back in the early 30s, right?
Yes, that was. I grew up during the Depression, and
Right,
everyone was poor, but everyone was happy.
right.
And Hall Street is located near Mount Carmel Church in
Mm-hmm.
Rivet Street. And the neighborhood was 99 and 9/10% Portuguese.
Right.
And I thought everybody was Santos, Souza, Madeiras, Cosmos, and Silva,
So you thought everybody was
Yeah,
Portuguese.
So when I went to school and I saw different names, I said, gee, there's other people around here.
Well, that's how tight knit the community was.
Yeah, so there were the French people, the Jewish people, Cape Verdean people.
Right.
We all got along very, very well. Had a nice bringing up.
Right. And of course, that's the South End, Hall Street, Rivet Street. I know you spent a lot of time at we've heard about this so many times, the old corner drugstore.
Oh, that was the best fraps in the world. Yeah.
Well, I know, I'm just going to say for the record, you still like a good frap now.
Oh, yeah, I do. Coffee frap with vanilla ice cream.
There's nothing like a good frap on a warm afternoon.
That's right. Nobody knows how to make them.
So you all not only went down to the corner drug and enjoyed going down there drinking fraps, as a kid you actually worked there, right?
Yes, I did. And that's when I had the real good fraps.
Yeah.
And I made it myself.
Yeah, so the boss didn't know that you were pumping up
I
your own
didn't
frap.
know.
Right?
Instead of put one scoop, I put 2 or 3. Oh, that was great.
So that whole time, I mean, that was a whole different era. I mean, obviously, my kids have a much more comfortable situation. So did I. Back then, depression. But you said you were happy, but it was a different kind of a situation. You didn't have the cell phones, and you didn't have the iPhone, a computer, all this stuff. But everybody seemed to make it work somehow.
Everyone was happy, and everyone kind of watched out for each other.
Yeah.
And in the summertime, you go down the street, everybody's on a piazza. They talk and stop and all that. We don't do that now because the homes are not situated that way.
Yeah. Right.
So I remember on Hall Street, you could park a car anywhere. But when I was a kid today, with a car in every house, a 3-tenement house, it's like some parking lot to stop and shop. You
Right.
can't get in
Right.
there.
Well, I enjoy taking my dad out to breakfast, and as my brother does, and so forth. And one day we decided, hey, you know what? Let's take a ride by Hall Street. I hadn't been down there in a while, and we went down there and we were saying, well, gee, it doesn't really look that much different because all the houses are all still there.
Right. Yeah. Well, they made differences in the piazza. They put poles up.
Right.
And I don't know if the old grapevine is still there or not, but
Well, in the backyard there was the grapevine area.
big
right?
grapevine, yeah. Portuguese people used to make a lot of wine in those days, the
Right.
grapes. And in the summertime, it was beautiful sitting down underneath the grapevine there.
Yeah, but I heard that when you got a little older, high school, stuff like that, like if you went on a date, the idea was you came back and you kind of sat under the grapevine and maybe chatted with the young lady and things like that. Is that right?
Yeah, we used to eat grapes.
You ate grapes under the grapevine?
Sure,
Oh,
why
yeah,
not?
well, that was
That
really
was
good.
very romantic.
Well, and the other thing too was that we're big sports fans in the Santos household. So it's the Red Sox and the Patriots and the Bruins and the Celtics. But I know mostly for you it was baseball. So we enjoy talking about when you grew up, Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, Jimmy Fox, like some of the greats of baseball you actually got to see at Fenway Park.
That's true.
What was that like?
That was quite a thrill. The first game we ever saw, the priest, I was an altar boy, St. John's Church, and the priest took us up, the altar boys, to see the Fenway Red Sox. And Jimmy Fox came over to us and talked to us, and geez, I thought that was that was great,
Yeah.
real great. And that all stayed with me. And I saw Joe
Yeah.
DiMaggio and his brother Dominic, and good ball with Ted Winters, of course.
Right.
He was one of the greatest.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, you ended up New Bedford High School. You ended up getting a bachelor's degree and eventually a master's degree, right?
Correct.
What schools were that from? One was Bridgewater, right?
I got my master's at Bridgewater. I got my bachelor's at Bryant College. Now it's Bryant University.
Well, the funny thing is, Dad and I, we really enjoy joking around. We have a lot of fun with my sons also and the rest of the family. And, you know, we have a kind of an offbeat kind of humor. It's almost like, we just say funny stuff and crazy stuff. And I think one time, remember years ago, we were out shooting the breeze, and then somebody said, "Oh, Jesse Santos, I have a master's degree," and the lady went, "Yeah, yeah, yeah."
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't used to the humor, right? With that.
No, I had a boss that I used to hang around a drugstore at night, you
Yeah.
know, and I was the only guy that was a college graduate.
Yeah, yeah,
All my other friends worked in the Goodyear and so forth, and hard-working guys.
yeah.
And my boss drove by one day and he said, "You shouldn't be hanging around there." I said, "What do you mean?"
How ridiculous is that, huh?
I said, "I grew up with these guys.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not any more of a big shot. I get my degrees because I want to get a better job. That's
Right.
all." But
And here's
I
a
mean,
funny thing: some people like that, sometimes they're smarter than some of us
Yeah, that's
who've
right.
been fortunate
Especially
to
with
have
their
it.
hands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So then, of course, you got a letter one day, right? One day when you were in your early 20s, you got a letter. You opened up the letter and it said, "Congratulations, you were going into the Army."
Yeah,
You got drafted, right?
Yeah, greetings from the President of the United States.
And you thought to yourself, "Thank you very much, but maybe this isn't such a good idea." But you served, and you served proudly, right?
Yeah, I took my basic at Fort Dix, and then I got assigned to European headquarters in Heidelberg.
Now this is in Korean War.
Korean War.
Yep.
And I was cleared for classified, confidential, secret, and top secret cables. And I was assigned to staff message control, where cables came in and out all over the world, and
Yeah.
it was pretty interesting work.
You had like some pretty high security clearance, right?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, that's pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
Guy from New Bedford goes out there, he's got top secret clearance and
My,
everything.
my,
That was
my
pretty good.
clearance is better than Trump's.
Well, here's a picture of Dad back in the early, I know they're not going to be able to get a great shot, but we'll zoom in on it. And wow, that's quite a picture. That brings back some memories. You know, you look pretty sharp in the uniform
yeah,
there.
yeah, sure.
So the ladies, they must have enjoyed, a man in uniform there, right? And here's another picture of Dad. And I'm going to show you another one. And for the people in our audience, some of the more senior people, you might recognize this person that Dad is with. This is Eddie Fisher. Eddie Fisher was a big-time singer. His daughter, of course, Carrie Fisher, unfortunately we lost recently. She passed away, but she was the actress in Star Wars and had a great career herself. And she, of course, was a daughter of Debbie Reynolds, who Eddie Fisher was married to, amongst other ladies. But you're actually pretty good friends with Eddie Fisher.
Yeah, Eddie Fisher, it's a funny thing. I was overseas before I had heard of him.
Right.
And he was stationed with us, but he was all over the world, all over Europe, putting on shows.
Yeah, right.
But I will never forget. And when I first met him, I asked him what he did in civilian life. And
Yeah.
he said he was a singer. That Eddie Cantor had given him his chance at some nightclub in New York. And I thought he was putting me on.
Yeah, you thought he was full of baloney.
Yeah, so I said, well, Clark Gable asked me to star in Gone with the Wind, but I refused the thing. And he laughed politely,
Yeah, yeah.
and this and that. Well, about 2 or 3 days later, I get a letter from my mother telling me that Eddie Fisher was in Heidelberg. And over at the American Network, where he was singing a song that I think was I Wish You Were Here.
Right.
So I said, "Is that you singing?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, gee, I owe you an apology. I didn't know it." And he laughed and laughed and
Yeah.
laughed. And but he was traveling a lot doing
Yeah, yeah.
shows.
Yeah, so when you picked him up and you were giving him a ride back, you
Yeah,
were
tell
giving
you-
him the business. When he
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
"I was a big-time singer,"
Yeah.
he said, "Yeah, I'm in a movie star."
yeah.
You know,
I thought he was putting
this
me
guy's
on.
this guy's
But he's a
he's
nice
full
guy.
of baloney. Yeah,
He's
right.
a nice guy.
Yeah, yeah. So it must have been fun, serving with somebody like that and
Yeah.
knowing them when they came back.
Well,
and things
he
like that.
he did a lot of traveling. I mean, he wasn't like
Yeah.
with me always, but you know.
The thing is, he liked to hang around with the showgirls a little bit there, didn't he, Eddie Fisher?
Well, yeah. What the heck? Can't blame him.
All right, so you came back from the Army in the early 50s, and obviously, you were getting your life together. This is my father. If you're just tuning in, Jesse Santos. This is a big-time Father's Day special here on New Bedford Connections. And I guess back then, one of the things to do if you were a young single guy, you go out to Lincoln Park or down to Acushnet Park,
Yes,
dancing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Did you do that?
I wasn't much of a dancer, but I used to love intermission.
So they had some big time bands that played down there.
Yeah, all the
Lincoln
big
Park?
bands at that time came to Lincoln Park one time or another.
Yeah. And I know Acushnet Park down, a lot of the young people don't remember, and I don't either, but I've seen pictures. It was beautiful right here on the East Beach water,
yeah,
right?
Then right across the street, that dance pavilion where you could have a beautiful climb big, right by the waterfront. It was beautiful.
Now, we talked about the corner drug. You met Mom, my mother,
at the
who
Corner
was a
Drug.
nurse at the corner drug. And, you know, we're always joking about this. The best you could come up with was nurse, I feel sick, or one of these things.
Yeah, I know.
Come on now, you could have done better than that.
When I saw her, she was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
And she had a uniform on, and I said, "Geez," I went up to her and said, "Nurse, I don't feel good." And she looked at me as though, "Who the heck is this guy?"
So you had to work on it a little
I
bit
worked,
because
yeah,
she came
yeah.
around. So that's good. And then you became a teacher. You know, my wife's a teacher. There's a lot of teachers out there doing terrific work, but you enjoy your time as a teacher, didn't you?
I did. And
Over at Winslow.
right, that was
Yeah.
my first school. Then I ended up at the Elwyn Campbell.
Right, and then you became, well,
Yeah.
tell me about you enjoyed the school years, right?
I did, and then I was appointed probation officer by Judge Horrocks, Ernest Horrocks.
Yes.
And I became a probation officer, assistant chief, first assistant, then I retired as chief.
You went all the way up the ranks.
All the way up the ranks, yeah.
You know what the funny thing is about some of these positions is that, you know, you're a frontline probation officer. You then moved up to the next rank, and then you become the chief. And then they have a meeting in Boston, and some commissioner or some boss who never served as a probation officer is telling you, hey, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And you're looking at this guy like, what is this guy talking about?
We had a guy that came to talk to us, and somebody said, well, we do this at arraignment. And the guy said, what's an arraignment? I said, oh, jeez. What's an arraignment?
I think the average person on the street knows that the first thing that happens in court is
it's
the
an
arraignment.
arraignment, yeah.
And this guy was the big shot that was going to tell you what to do. Right? Isn't that always
Yeah.
the case? Hey, you know, I know you served with Judge Markey, and I don't have this on my notes, but I remember you told the story. I guess we can't tell it totally, but what happened is you were telling Judge Markey, hey, that knucklehead boob from Boston, the commissioner's coming down here, and I got to get ready for him. So when he came down, Jack Markey said, hey, Jesse, tell him what you told me about a half an hour ago.
Yeah. I was going to, I said, gee, I can't tell what I told you. I never said anything, Jack.
Yeah. Tell him you told me this guy was a boob about 10 minutes ago. So anyway, you served as a probation officer for a long time, and I'm an attorney, so I'm in court quite a bit, so I work with probation officers all the time, and it is very good work because, you know, people think somebody's on probation, this and that. You can actually help somebody pull it together.
Oh, yes, and I'm very proud that I helped a lot of people. Matter of fact, I had a kid that was quite tough, and I straightened him out, and he went into service, and one day I'm in my office, and he comes in, captain's bars, and he
What's up?
couldn't, he gave me a hug. I thought he broke my back,
Yeah,
that I had helped him.
yeah.
You know, speaking of probation officer, when we first, we got invited one time to they had renovated a house of corrections somewhere near the Boston area.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up, I was a brand new probation officer, and this trustee, a prisoner, but he was a trustee, he took us through, and he took us to the gym, beautiful gym, and in the corner up in the trapeze was this guy hanging with his legs on the trapeze, just sitting there. So I said to the guy, I said, gee, there's a guy hanging up there on the thing. He said, oh, that's Benny. He thinks he's a bulb. I said, oh, I see. I said, well, that's not good. He should come down. That blood rushing to his head, I don't think it would help him. Then he looks at me and said, what the heck are we going to do for light? I said, uh-oh. I tiptoed gently out of there. Fast.
Then somebody said, hey, don't we need a chandelier in here?
Oh, yeah. I don't want to end up being a chandelier.
And I know over the years there's a lot of funny stories. I mean, obviously a lot of serious stuff goes down in court and decisions have to be made on different stuff, but there's some funny stuff. And I do remember a story that you always used to like to tell about a gentleman who was trying to get money in an auto accident, and he goes on the witness stand and he was trying to show the judge how his arm was hurting him.
Oh, that poor guy, that was the worst guy I've ever seen. The worst guy that ever had a bad day in court was this guy. A friend of his must have told him that when he got in an accident, he could get the insurance company to give him money and all that. So
If he couldn't move his
so he
arm.
can move his arm. So he goes before the judge, and the prosecutor said, Mr. So-and-so, before the accident, no, he said, Mr. So-and-so, how's your arm? He said, oh, I can't move it. He says, yeah, but before the accident, how high could you move it? He said, well, before the accident, you had it. So they threw the case out of court. And the judge was so angry that he fined him court costs for bringing a
lying to the court.
Yeah. So he gets out in the corridor. This is in the old courthouse. And he sees his buddy there. Buddy says, how'd you make out? He smacks his buddy because he's mad that a guy gave him the bad information. He gets arrested. He goes back on the dock. So he had a real bad day in court.
That was a long day in court. But that's something that, sometimes things happen in court that you'd swear that this was somebody that, wrote it up for Saturday Night Live.
Oh, yeah,
but it really happens sometimes.
Yeah, you can't write this stuff.
So you served all those years of probation and you worked your way up the ranks. And I know, was it the last 5 years that you served as the chief?
Yes.
Yeah, how did you like doing that?
Well, I liked it. It was a lot of responsibility, but it was interesting work. In court work, you meet good people, bad people, people that never had a chance, and people that make it.
Right.
And you try to do the best you can with what you got. And we did all right.
We've always had a lot of fun joking around and stuff like that. I remember a kind of a funny story. I was probably like, I don't know, seven or 8 years old. And I'm sitting in the passenger seat of the car, and Dad's driving. And we get to an intersection, and a gentleman's crossing the street. And he's crossing the street slowly. So Dad rolls down the window. Again, I'm like about 7 years old. Dad rolls down the window, and he says, hey, you dumb blank blank, get your blank out of the road. I'll run you down, you blank and blank, right?
Yeah.
So the guy turns around and said, hey, Jesse, how you been? It was somebody that you knew, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat going, oh, God, Dad's lost it. Why is he yelling at this guy?
I scared the heck out of Paul and his brother.
That was hilarious, because the guy, you guys were friends since you were kids. For years, yeah. But I'm sitting in the passenger seat, I'm like, what the heck is Dad doing? Why is he yelling at this guy? I thought that was hilarious. And then one of the other things that was kind of strange that happened was, I think I was probably maybe either just out of high school or early in college. Dad used to like to bring us to Red Sox games. So one day I'm like, you know what? Just to return the favor, I'll get tickets and I'll bring you and my brother Mark Santos, to the Red Sox game. So I get the tickets. We drive all the way up there. We go inside. We sit in our seats. Then a few minutes later, somebody goes up and says, "Excuse me, you're sitting in our seats."
Well, yeah, right? the lady, she was a sassy lady.
Yeah.
And she said, "You're in my seat." I said, "No, I'm not." I looked at the ticket. I said, "Here
you go, right here."
So she went and get the usher, and he comes and says, "Yeah, that's the right seat, but for last night's game." So I looked at Paul and I said, "You are one dumb SOB," and we had to move. And then it started to rain, but we went to left field. We got better seats actually than what we had
in
before.
those days, it wasn't a sellout,
No.
When that usher ever said, "Yeah, you're in the right seats for last night's game," yeah. So Dad looks at me, he's like, "Are you kidding me?" You drive all the way up there, and that wouldn't happen now because I know you haven't been, but if you go to the Red Sox game, they have like computer bars, and it beeps in, and it never would have registered. But we just handed the paper ticket, and he ripped it, and we went in, and it was the wrong day, right?
Well, like in Lincoln Park, they used to stamp your hand when you go in.
Yeah,
so
right.
if you went out and you come back, you got.
Yeah, now it's all computerized. There's no way that we would have got in on the wrong night if that happened now. So anyway, definitely a lot of fun stuff has happened over the years. So you retired, gosh, it was like, I think 1991.
Right.
And then you always used to have this saying, I would say, "How do you like retirement?" And you used to say, "Anybody that doesn't like this is full of baloney."
Yeah.
So you really enjoyed kind of chilling out and,
I did, and I tell you what, and I'm very glad I did. As you know, we just lost your mother.
Right.
And she's part of my life.
Right.
I miss her dearly.
Yes.
But I'm glad I retired when I did because I had the time and I had the years. And I spent 25 years in retirement with your mother.
Yeah, right.
And we go out together every day, breakfast and so forth. I had a good time until she passed away.
Right. Well, here's a
so
picture.
I'm glad I did that.
Yeah, I want to show this picture. This is your 50th wedding anniversary in the year 2005. So here's Mom and you. And my brother Mark Santos, a lot of people know him. He's a clerk magistrate of Superior Court. And of course myself in that picture. And this is one of our favorite pictures. We still have this one up on the mantle, Mom and Dad. So obviously wonderful years together. But people, when you and me and my kids are hanging out and when we start joking around, people that come in from the outside probably say, "Wow, we really love to joke around." So, isn't that fun that we're able to do that? We call each other, "Hey, what are you, knucklehead? What are you doing? What are you talking to?" We just we love to mix it up.
Do you remember that one time his kids were younger and they were raised in hell in the house there?
Yeah, in your house.
My house. And Paul told his youngest boy, Andrew, to sit down. And I said, geez, Paul, let that kid play, for crying out loud, you know, this and that. So he said, well, you never let us do that when we were kids. Well, let him play. So he said, no, he's going to stay there. So Andrew looks at his father, and he says, why don't you listen to your father?
Well, that was a knockout punch there. I didn't have anything else I could say. I was like, what am I going to say now? You know? Oh boy. But yeah, we call back and forth, and we joke around. We're big Red Sox fans in our house, and the Red Sox have actually won a few World Series. So people, the younger kids, like my kids, they're spoiled because the Boston teams have won so many championships. We went through years and years where the Red Sox wouldn't win the damn thing.
Just like the Cubs recently.
Right. And I remember a lot of people say that when the Red Sox finally won in 2004, the first thing they did was they talked to their dad and said, Dad, can you believe it? Because I really wanted you to see it. I was concerned that you weren't going to see it, to be honest. And then you've seen it 3 times, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You remember the time we went up, and I think that's the only Grand Slam you saw. It was Ken Harrelson.
Ken the Hawk Harrelson.
Yeah,
hit a grand slam in the bottom of the 9th to win the game. Yeah, that's way back there.
Yeah.
So you're familiar with New Bedford, right? You grew up in
Sure.
New Bedford and all that. So you used to joke with me about a place that I never knew existed, Monkey's Island. What the heck is Monkey's Island?
Oh, that's a place off East Rodney French Boulevard, and
I never heard of it until you told me about it.
Well, it was like a lover's lane, you know.
Lover's Lane.
Yeah, you go there and park, watch the ships go by, say the rosary, and,
All right, so you actually went there to Monkey's Island?
Yeah.
And you saw the fishing boats come in? And
A
things like
lot of boats come in, yeah. Yeah.
Hey, that reminds me of a story I didn't have on here. I think one time when you were a kid, you went on a date, and I don't know if it was your dad's car broke down or something, so you borrowed the priest's car.
Oh, yeah. I was home for the weekend.
Yeah.
I was in the service.
Yeah.
And I asked the priest told me I could use his car for a date. So I had a date and I went down to Monkey's Island. Well, the next day I go to church and the priest said, "Where did you go?" The people all the village calling him up. They saw his car parked.
So they went, "Oh my God, this Father So-and-so's car, Monkey's Island. What's going on here?"
Oh, Jesus Christ. I was head altar boy too.
And they didn't take they said, "Hey, Jesse, we have after mass. We're gonna have a little discussion." We talked about baseball. I know you love playing for the church, St. John the Baptist, right? You were a catcher.
Yes, we had the CYO League, was very popular in those days. Every parish in the Florida Diocese and throughout the country had a baseball team. And every night in the summer, Ashley Park, Buttonwood Park, Brooklawn Park, Cushman Park in Fairhaven, loaded with people watching the CIO games. And on the other nights, they used to have the Twilight Leagues. It was very, there was no TV. Everybody was interested in in sports then.
Yeah.
More so then, I think, than they are today.
Right.
And we had a lot of fun. Then I had what they call rabbit ears. If somebody gave me the crap.
Oh, in the stands, if somebody was razzing you, you didn't like that too much.
There was a catcher, wise guy. Every time I go to the plate, when he get the ball back from the pitcher, when he threw it back, he'd step on my foot.
As he was throwing the ball back to the pitcher?
So he did it once, he did it twice. The second time, I took his mask out, wacko. And
So you started a brawl in the CYO game?
Yeah.
Right, and there were priests there and everything?
Priests, everybody. But I got forgiven.
So you confessed the following
Well,
week?
everybody was there saying to the priest, "Hey, the guy started it. He stepped on his foot all the time, So,
I can picture your blood started to boil there, and you
that
step
guy,
on that foot one more time, and there's going to be a problem.
And that guy became a good friend of mine.
Oh, I'm sure that happens a lot.
He became a school teacher in Taunton.
Yeah.
And we used to see each other in Bridgewater when I was getting my master's. Yeah.
Well, back then, of course, you didn't have the 500 television channels and all this stuff.
No.
So people in neighborhoods, they loved to walk down, and you played a lot of games at Ashley Park.
Yeah.
People in your neighborhood, the Hall Street area, they would walk down, and they'd really get into those games, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And baseball was your main. You didn't really play too many other sports, right?
No, just baseball.
I know you didn't do a lot of painting. You and I were asked to paint one time.
There's an rectory.
Yeah, one time. I'll make this a real quick one, but I think I was just old enough that I wanted to have a job, but too young to get a job. I was 15. So you have to be 16 to get a job, I think, back then. So one day, Dad's like, "Hey, Father Nagel from St. John's, he wants you to paint this bathroom on the 3rd floor. Why don't you and I go up there and paint it?" So I don't know how to paint. Dad doesn't know how to paint, but we're like, sure, we'll do it. So we get the ladder, we get the paint hats and everything. We get the paint. We go down there. We go up to the 3rd floor. It's about 100 degrees up there. But the best part of I could go on for 10 minutes about this story. But the best part was we put the can of paint on the top of a ladder. So Dad turns to me. He says, "Paul, whatever you do not bump into this ladder." I said, "Yeah, okay, Dad. I won't bump into the ladder. Don't you hear me? I got a full can of paint here. Whatever you do, don't bump into that ladder." All of a sudden, I turn around. Oh! Dad knocks the whole can of paint onto the floor, right? So now we got this big disaster, and we had to clean it up. And
we're trying to paint the floor with it, trying to make it look good. So the priest will think we did a big job.
Yeah, right. So then the floor is covered with paint, right? We're trying to clean it up, and just then we hear Father Nagel coming up the stairs. He goes, "Hey, I got some Coca-Cola here." So Dad goes, "Get rid of him! Get rid of him! Don't let him in here!"
How about the window? We painted the window to get smaller and smaller.
Yeah, smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And I think we painted the door. And then you said, "Hey, why don't you grab that behind the door?" So I closed the door, and the door was shut. We couldn't open the door. So believe me, it was a disaster. But fortunately, we were able to get by that one and make it through. But that's a story, So Dad's upset. Everybody's upset. We go home for lunch. I haven't said anything. And then finally, I'm eating a sandwich, and finally, I just burst out laughing. I can't take it anymore.
You can't stop.
So that was a lot of funny things happened over the years.
Oh,
so
yeah.
obviously you and Mom raised myself and my brother Mark. Mark is a clerk magistrate over at Superior Court. You got 4 grandchildren. My kids, Dylan and Andrew Santos, Matthew Santos, who plays in the band Rah Rah Riot. For any younger person who's flipping by and stops at the show for a second. And Christiane, who is now a school teacher. Actually, a school teacher like you were once upon a time.
Yeah.
So, so obviously you have some good family here, and we definitely have a lot of laughs.
Yeah, we sure did. It's been a good life.
Now, when you first, I know you said that back when you drove, right? They didn't have the automatic transmission. You had to do the clutch and all that. So they did what? You had to go up to the top of Johnny Cake Hill. I know people. That used to say
yeah. It was a stick shift, and they had a clutch.
Yeah.
So you had to stop on a hill, and go up the hill first, second, and third. And then you go to the top of the hill, come back down again. But I got my license. It could never happen again. The day I was 16.
Right.
And the guy there, I forget his name, but it might have been Gilmore or something, years and years ago. The hell, I'm 87. but the guy said to me, he said, "How come you can drive? You're 16 today. How come you can drive this good?" So I said, "Well, my grandfather's got a farm, and I used to drive the car out in the He says, "That's a lot of baloney. But you can drive, so I'll give you your license."
Is that an exact quote? That's a lot of baloney? This isn't HBO. This is the Bedford Connection. Hey, Dad, this has been a lot of fun. I've been doing this show for a while, and between this and the other broadcasting stuff I've done over the years, I always thought in the back of my mind, I got to get Dad on sometime.
Yeah.
But I figured I better hurry up and.
Are you giving me a hint? I'm cutting you off the will.
Yeah, I really. This has been a blast. I'm sitting here. I'm thinking, I can't believe you're here, but I'm glad you are, and we've had a very fun half hour. And I know some of our viewers probably remember a lot of the stuff you talked about how New Bedford was over the years. So thanks a lot for coming by.
No problem. Love you, big guy.
Love you too, Jesse Santos, my dad. A big time Father's Day special. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time here on New Bedford Connections. Good night.